If you switched from regular bread to keto bread and still feel hungry, foggy, or stuck, your body may be telling you something the label is hiding. That tortilla may say 3 net carbs, but your insulin does not read marketing claims. It reads ingredients, digestion speed, portion size, and your personal glucose response. Today, we are going to look behind the package, behind the fiber math, and behind the word keto. Because the real question is not, is it low carb? The real question is, what happens inside your body after you eat it? Stay with me very closely. You walk into the grocery store determined to make a healthier choice. You skip the white bread. You avoid the sugary cereal. Then you see a package that says keto friendly, only 2 net carbs, or 0 sugar. And suddenly it feels safe, maybe even healthy. But here is the problem many people discover later. Their cravings come back. Their fasting glucose stays elevated. Their belly fat does not move. Some even notice bloating, water retention, or stronger hunger after eating these products regularly. So what is really happening? Here's what's really going on inside your body. Many keto breads and tortillas are built around processed starches, modified fibers, resistant wheat products, seed oils, gums, and industrial ingredients that can behave very differently inside human metabolism than the package suggests. In some people, these foods barely affect blood sugar. In others, they create a surprisingly large insulin response. And that matters because insulin is not just a blood sugar hormone. Insulin is also a storage hormone. It influences fat burning, hunger signals, inflammation, liver fat accumulation, and even energy stability throughout the day. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your metabolism is a fireplace. Real whole foods like eggs, salmon, steak, avocado, and non-starchy vegetables burn slowly and steadily like quality firewood. But many processed keto products behave more like compressed paper logs. The label may look clean, but the burn inside your body can be very different. Today, we are going to break down the hidden truth behind keto breads and tortillas. We will look at ingredients that may quietly spike insulin, why net carbs can sometimes mislead people, how processed fibers affect the gut and liver, and how to test whether these foods truly work for your body. Because the goal is not just eating keto products. The goal is restoring metabolic health. Today, I want to focus on one major insight that changes how people think about keto-friendly packaged foods. The big insight: a food can be low in net carbs and still work against fat burning and metabolic healing in certain people. That is the part most labels do not explain. We are going to look at how processed starches, resistant wheat ingredients, seed oils, emulsifiers, and engineered fibers may affect insulin, appetite, gut health, and glucose stability differently than whole foods do. We will also discuss why 2 people can eat the exact same keto tortilla and have completely different blood sugar responses. What the research shows is that metabolic health is highly individual. Labels give averages, your body gives reality, and by the end of this video, you will know how to identify which keto breads and tortillas may support your goals, and which ones may quietly keep you metabolically stuck. One of the biggest misunderstandings in the keto world is the idea that net carbs automatically predict insulin response. They do not. Now, net carbs can be useful. The concept came from subtracting fiber and certain sugar alcohols from total carbohydrates, because many of these compounds are not fully absorbed into the bloodstream. In theory, that sounds reasonable, but here's where things become more complicated. Your body is not a calculator. Your metabolism is a living biological system. And many keto breads and tortillas contain ingredients like modified wheat starch, tapioca fiber, resistant dextrin, wheat gluten isolates, or processed corn fibers that may still create a glucose or insulin response in some individuals. What the research shows is that certain resistant starches and engineered fibers are only partially resistant. Some are broken down differently depending on the health of your gut microbiome, your liver health, your insulin sensitivity, and even how stressed or sleep-deprived you are. Here's a simple analogy. Imagine 2 people drinking caffeine. One feels calm, the other feels shaky and anxious for 6 hours. Same coffee, different biology. Keto products work the same way. A person with excellent metabolic flexibility may tolerate a keto tortilla without much change in glucose. But someone with insulin resistance, fatty liver, prediabetes, menopause-related hormonal changes, or chronic inflammation may see a very different response. This is why continuous glucose monitors are becoming so valuable. Many people are shocked when a 3-net carb tortilla raises glucose more than expected. And remember, insulin can rise even when glucose only rises modestly. That is important because insulin is the signal that tells the body whether to store energy or release stored fat. So instead of asking only, how many net carbs are in this? Ask a better question. How does my body respond after eating this? That question changes everything. And if this breakdown is helping simplify the confusion around keto foods, consider subscribing. Every week, we look beyond marketing claims and focus on what actually supports metabolic healing in real human physiology. Let's go one layer deeper and look at the ingredient list itself, because this is often where the real story begins. Many keto tortillas and breads are designed in a laboratory first, and for human biology second. Their main goal is texture, flexibility, shelf life, taste. The problem is that creating a soft tortilla without traditional flour usually requires heavy processing. Here's what you often find inside these products: wheat gluten isolates, modified starches, soybean oil, canola oil, emulsifiers, gums, preservatives, and synthetic fibers. Now, any single ingredient may not be catastrophic on its own, but metabolic health is cumulative. Your body responds to the total signal. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Processed seed oils and ultra-refined starch combinations may contribute to inflammation and unstable appetite signaling in susceptible individuals. Some emulsifiers and additives may also affect the gut lining and microbiome balance. What the research shows is that certain food additives can alter gut bacteria and intestinal barrier function, especially when consumed frequently in ultra-processed foods. And when the gut becomes irritated, metabolic health often suffers alongside it. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your gut lining like the protective screen on a window. Whole foods tend to support and strengthen that screen, but repeated exposure to highly processed industrial ingredients may slowly weaken it over time. This is one reason some people say, I'm technically low carb, but I still feel inflamed. Because ketosis is not the same thing as nourishment. A keto cookie, keto bread, and keto tortilla diet can still become a highly processed diet. Instead, try building your meals around simpler metabolic anchors: eggs, meat, fish, Greek yogurt if tolerated, olives, avocado, leafy greens, nuts, and slow-cooked proteins. Then use keto replacement products occasionally rather than several times every day. Your metabolism usually responds better to real food consistency than clever packaging claims. One of the biggest clues that a keto bread or tortilla may not be working for you is not your weight. It is your appetite. If you finish a meal and still find yourself thinking about snacks an hour later, pay attention to that signal. Your body may be telling you that the meal created stimulation without enough true metabolic satisfaction. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Many ultra-processed keto products are engineered to recreate the texture and emotional experience of traditional comfort foods. Soft bread, chewy wraps, pizza crust, sandwiches. And for some people, these foods keep the brain locked into the same reward pathways that drove overeating before keto began. This is not about weakness, this is neurobiology. Highly palatable foods can stimulate dopamine signaling and reinforce habitual eating patterns, even when sugar is lower. That means a person may technically remain low carb while still struggling with constant food thoughts, grazing behavior, or nighttime cravings. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to quit smoking while holding an unlit cigarette all day. Even without nicotine, the behavioral pattern still keeps the brain emotionally connected to the habit. For some people, keto breads work the same way. What the research shows is that food texture, hyperpalatability, and ultra-processing can influence appetite regulation beyond calories alone. This is why some people lose weight more easily eating simple whole foods than constantly chasing healthy versions of processed comfort foods. Now, this does not mean everyone must avoid keto breads forever. Context matters. But if your hunger stays high, your fasting insulin remains elevated, or your fat loss stalls, try a 2-week experiment removing processed keto replacement foods completely. Focus on protein, minerals, hydration, and whole food fats instead. And if this conversation is helping you think differently about metabolic health, consider subscribing. I post practical, science-based tools every week to help you work with your biology instead of fighting against it. One of the most important things I want you to understand is this. You can have an insulin problem before you have a glucose problem. This is where many keto bread and tortilla conversations become misleading. A person may check their blood sugar after eating a keto wrap and see only a small rise. Maybe glucose goes from 92 to 108. That does not look dramatic, but insulin may have risen much higher behind the scenes to keep glucose under control. And if insulin stays elevated repeatedly throughout the day, fat burning becomes harder. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When cells become insulin resistant, the pancreas often compensates by producing more insulin to keep blood sugar appearing normal. This can happen for years before diabetes is diagnosed. So someone may think, my glucose looks fine, I must be metabolically healthy. But elevated fasting insulin, increased belly fat, energy crashes, and constant hunger may already be signaling deeper dysfunction. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your kitchen sink is clogged. The water level may still look manageable because someone keeps scooping water out with a bucket. But the underlying blockage is still there. High insulin works the same way. This is why some people plateau eating multiple keto breads, low-carb desserts, protein bars, and tortillas every day. Technically, carbohydrates are lower, but insulin signaling may still stay elevated from constant snacking, processed ingredients, frequent eating, and excessive palatable foods. One practical tool that can help is meal spacing. Instead of grazing all day on keto snacks, try eating 2 or 3 structured meals centered around protein and nutrient density. Give insulin time to fall between meals. Walking for 10 minutes after eating may also help improve glucose disposal naturally. What the research shows is that improving insulin sensitivity is not just about removing sugar. It is also about lowering the frequency of metabolic stimulation throughout the day. Have you noticed how many keto breads and tortillas advertise massive amounts of fiber? 12 grams of fiber, 14 grams of fiber, only 1 net carb. At first, that sounds impressive, but this is where context matters. Natural fiber from vegetables, chia seeds, flax, avocados, berries, and nuts behaves very differently inside the body compared to highly processed industrial fibers added into packaged foods. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Many keto products use isolated fibers like soluble corn fiber, tapioca fiber, polydextrose, oat fiber, or resistant dextrin to reduce the official net carb number on the label. Some people tolerate these well. Others experience bloating, gas, constipation, water retention, or unstable glucose responses. And that reaction is not random. Your gut microbiome determines how many of these fibers are fermented, absorbed, or metabolized. A healthier gut may handle them better. But someone with insulin resistance, chronic stress, poor sleep, antibiotic history, or gut inflammation may react very differently. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your gut bacteria like workers inside a factory. Whole food fibers usually give the workers stable, clean materials to process, but dumping large amounts of engineered fibers into the system can sometimes overwhelm the factory and create metabolic traffic jams. What the research shows is that fiber quality matters, not just fiber quantity. Whole food fiber is consistently associated with better metabolic health, while ultra-processed food intake is associated with poorer metabolic outcomes overall. So instead of chasing the highest fiber number on a package, focus on the source. Build your fiber from real foods first: leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, fermented vegetables, chia, flax, berries, nuts, and avocado. Then think of keto breads and tortillas as occasional convenience tools, not daily metabolic foundations. And if this is helping you make more informed food decisions, consider subscribing. Every day, I share practical strategies to help you improve energy, metabolism, and long-term health naturally. So now the big question becomes, how do you know whether a keto bread or tortilla is helping you or quietly working against your metabolism? Because at the end of the day, labels are theories. Your body is the experiment. Here's the simplest and most practical approach I recommend. First, stop guessing and start observing patterns. Pay attention to what happens for the next 3 to 4 hours after eating these foods. Do you feel calm and satisfied? Or do you notice hunger returning quickly, bloating, cravings, fatigue, brain fog, or the urge to snack again? Those signals matter. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your metabolism constantly communicates through energy stability, appetite, digestion, sleep quality, and inflammation. The problem is that many people only watch the scale while ignoring all the earlier warning signs. If you want even more clarity, consider using a continuous glucose monitor for a short period, especially if you struggle with insulin resistance, prediabetes, PCOS, fatty liver, or stubborn weight gain. Many people are surprised by the difference between foods that should work and foods that actually work for their body. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine buying shoes online based only on the label size. Two pairs may both say size 10, but one fits perfectly while the other hurts your feet all day. Keto foods work similarly. The packaging gives information, but your personal response determines the real outcome. A very useful protocol is a 14-day reset. For 2 weeks, remove keto breads, tortillas, bars, and processed keto desserts completely. Focus on protein-rich whole foods, hydration, minerals, quality sleep, strength training, and simple meal timing. Then reintroduce one product slowly and monitor your energy, cravings, digestion, and glucose response. That process teaches you more than any marketing label ever will, because the goal is not finding foods that fit the keto trend. The goal is building a metabolism that becomes flexible, stable, energized, and resilient over time. So, what is the hidden truth about keto breads and tortillas? The answer is not that they are automatically bad. The real issue is that many people assume a low net carb label guarantees a healthy metabolic response, and biology is far more complex than marketing. Here's what we covered today. Some keto breads and tortillas may still stimulate insulin more than expected in certain individuals. Processed starches, engineered fibers, emulsifiers, seed oils, and ultra-processed ingredients can affect appetite, digestion, inflammation, and glucose stability differently from whole foods. And in many cases, the biggest warning sign is not just blood sugar. It is persistent cravings, stalled fat loss, bloating, low energy, or constantly thinking about food. What the research continues to show is that metabolic health improves most consistently when we center nutrition around minimally processed, nutrient-dense foods. Protein quality matters, sleep matters, meal timing matters, muscle mass matters, stress matters, and insulin sensitivity matters far more than clever packaging claims. Let me leave you with one important reminder. Keto is not supposed to become another processed food industry. The original goal was metabolic healing, stable energy, better brain function, reduced inflammation, improved insulin sensitivity, and long-term resilience as we age. So try just one change this week. Maybe you replace one processed keto snack with a whole food meal. Maybe you test your own glucose response. Maybe you remove keto breads for 14 days and observe how your hunger and energy change. Small experiments create powerful awareness. Because when you learn how your body truly responds, you stop relying on labels and start building real metabolic intelligence. And if this video added value to your health journey, like the video and subscribe. Join this community of people learning how to support their metabolism, energy, and longevity naturally, one practical step at a time.